Shalom, shalom. Greetings to you all in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, wherever you are. It's a blessed day again. The Father has granted us. It's a blessing, brothers and sisters, to share the good news always and all the time. Because this is the power of God that sets man free. I have realized that even those who preach the gospel, they need the gospel to first illuminate their eyes of understanding. I think it's so more dangerous to get into the preaching of the gospel if you are not enlightened. You do a lot of damage, not only to yourself, but to everybody without knowing. You might be sincere, but you can be sincerely wrong. You might be passionate, but your passion is not enough to get the work done. The gospel of Jesus Christ has to first be clear in our hearts, in our sight, in our understanding, before we begin to serve or share that message. If it's not clear enough, we're not qualified to do it. Okay, as much as we would love to encourage everybody to do it, but you should do what should be done, not what you want to do as a person. So we have a lot of issues because this gospel is not clear in many people's hearts and minds, even those especially that are preaching or sharing the gospel. First and foremost, even the meaning of the word gospel is not clear to many, but it has to be clear first before someone shares or take that responsibility of sharing it. Paul teaches us a lot in those lines. Even John says, James will say that not many people should not desire to be teachers because they will be accountable. They have to be asked a lot, all right? Because it's easy to lead masses into the same ignorance. You know, the Pharisees did it, and that was terrible because of what they created in that time. It was so hard to listen to the truth because of the damage the Pharisees had brought, and they didn't know how much they had brought a havoc upon our whole city, our whole country, in fact, the whole world. It is important to see that the Pharisees did a very bad work, which turned out to be a hindrance even from the message of the truth itself. In Galatians chapter 22, verse 20, it reads, I have been crucified with Christ, in him I have shared his crucifixion. It is no longer I who live, but Christ. The Messiah lives in me, and the life I now live in the body, I live by faith, by adherence to the reliance on and complete and complete trust in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. All right. So what we have here is the verse that reveals again death. It says, I have been crucified. Now crucifixion means death because you had to die on the cross. You had to be killed. Every man that was hanging on the cross, it was not a kind of a game. It was death, real death. So we had to die on the cross. So I have been crucified with Christ, and I have shared his crucifixion. It is no longer I who live, but Christ the Messiah lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith and by adherence to and reliance on and complete trust in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. So again, death becomes a factor here as far as the new existence is concerned. The new person is concerned. He says if it was not by death, then we would have two natures, the old and the new, at the same time in us. Now, and this is one of the things that is remarkable, because now to many people they think that we have two natures, all right, the good and the bad, the old and the new, all right. So with that kind of thinking, it means nothing it actually goes against, all right, the cross, because the cross did not bring a new person to cohabit with the old person in one person at the same time. Then the work of the cross will be null and void. You see, this is how then we fight the cross without knowing, because we think contrary to what the cross has done. So truth is, you have no two natures. You have only one nature. And if you find yourself doing what you don't want to do, it's not because you have the second nature. It's rather the mind has not been renewed. Here is one of the scriptures, because this is the basis of our Christian belief. It says, I have been crucified with Christ. In him I have shared his crucifixion. So I really, really died. That's what he's saying. I died for real. We really died. Okay? It's not saying that I would die. He's saying I died. Okay? And this is important, because when what died and who died? What died and who died? You see? What died and who died? Well, you see, somebody died. So, if somebody died, he indeed died. So who died? He's clear on this point, all right? Let me use a King James Version. It says, I have been crucified with Christ, okay? It is no longer I who live. So he's talking about two I's. The first I, all right, who lived before, and the second I who is born after the death of that first I who was crucified. So in other words, the new I to come to life, all right, the old I had to first die because they cannot stay in one place at the same time. They cannot be together. They can't live together. That's darkness and light living in the same place. All right? But this is not true. This is not true. If this is true, for example, look at this verse again. It says, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, look, but Christ lives in me. So he says, we don't have two people here in me. There's only one person, that is Christ. He says, I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. So there is only Christ who lives in me. All right? The one who used to live before Christ came is no longer there. Is no more. He's a dead person. He's a dead man. Okay, so the new man is now living inside, and his name is Christ. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. So now, in fact, to emphasize on this, he says, but he goes on to say, but Christ lives in me, and the life which I now live. Okay, so he describes now the kind of life that is being lived today in the flesh, not even in heaven. You know, people talk about it's impossible to do it in the flesh and so in the world and so on, so. But it's not true. He says, the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith. By faith. You see, there's a version that says, by the faith of the Son of God. By the faith, it is by faith in the Son of God. So, in other words, it's no longer me who is living this life. Somebody else is living out his life in me. You see now? So, if then this person is living out his life in me, it is only possible because I died. So, crucifixion again means a lot here. Crucifixion means everything again here. Because without crucifixion, without death, there won't be the end of the first man and the beginning of the second man. And the second man is the only man who lives now. In fact, these two men he's talking about, also he had shared about this when he's talking about the first Adam and the second and the last, the first man and the second man, the first Adam and the last Adam. All right? So who died? The first Adam. Who is alive today? Not the first Adam, but the last Adam. Christ lives in you. Christ is the last Adam. So there is no coexistence between the first Adam and the last Adam, or the first man and the second man. All right, so there are no two men in you. There's only one man. And the one man who came, he annihilated, he took away first the first man for him to reign, all right, peacefully, to reign in you. He had to first take away the first man. So this is exactly what we see. Are we saying that Jesus Christ is standing and working together with Adam? No. Jesus Christ is the second man and the last Adam. So there's no Adam. The first Adam is no more. There's only last Adam. So, but people are not acquainted with the last Adam. They are acquainted with the first Adam. Okay? Think about it. So death is now playing a major factor in the death of the first Adam and the last what? And the birthing of the last Adam. So death is necessary for the newness of life. Very important. Shalom, shalom.